Hey guys, it is Patrick from LSAT Lab. We're here to talk about the famous flaws. Just like the mighty city of Pittsburgh, flaw questions are at the intersection of three rivers. You have necessary assumption, weaken, and method of reasoning, all sort of blending together and taking turns to give you flaw questions. It basically puts you in the role of opposing counsel, where you are saying, "Objection, Your Honor, this argument sucks, here's why." But it also makes you have to read through a lot of abstract language to figure out, okay, does this apply to the situation at hand? The great news is that most of that abstract language comes back to the same 10 flaws. Not a lot you can memorize in LSAT. These 10 flaws fill up almost half of all the answer choices on Flaw. So let's freaking memorize them. What does a flaw question stem look like? It's going to say, why was this argument vulnerable to criticism? What error did it commit? Why is it flawed? But then the answers will answer in different ways. It'll say like, well, it's flawed because it takes for granted this assumption. Or it fails to consider this weakening idea. Or here's an abstract description of what it did.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sledge's business has been suffering ever since the construction site moved in. So clearly, the construction site owes Mr. Sledge some money for the lost revenue it has caused.
Sir, be honest with me. Are you Mr. Sledge?
Guilty as charged, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Well, Sledge, let's pick apart your argument. We gotta find your conclusion and what your supporting evidence is. And thank you very much for putting the word clearly as a keyword that lets us see that the last sentence is the conclusion. We'll accept that your business has been suffering, but we're not going to accept that the construction company owes you any money. How do we object? What's wrong with that argument? We could just say like, well, other stores nearby aren't suffering. Or say, no, the real reason your store's suffering is that new store across the street. Or abstractly, you've concluded on the basis of a temporal relationship between two things that one thing caused the other? That's an illegal move, bro. That's a causal flaw where I grew up. Each of these famous flaws has a few different ways that the answer choice can describe it, but it's got reliable keywords that you train your brain to associate with this flaw. Yo.
Can you just give us an example of all 10 flaws?
I would love to. Is it okay if they're all basketball related?
It's really not.
As you wish, my lady. Alright, so remember, we're looking for illegal moves. Can you spot the foul?
Hooray for basketball!
Good job. Now let's try it with logic. You can conversationally object to this by saying, dumbass, there's other ways to be rich. But if you're trying to name the foul that was committed, you have to understand that there's conditional logic here, and the author interpreted that rule backwards, an opposite way, same difference. If an answer says that an author confused the necessary with the sufficient, it's referring to conditional logic, and we don't want to get too deep in the weeds, that's its own video. But a conditional logic statement just means an if-then, and you call the left side the sufficient. It guarantees the necessary on the right side. If I know you're in the NBA, it guarantees that you're rich. An equivalent way of saying this is since the left guarantees the right, if you're not the second thing, you're not the first thing. If you're not rich, then you must not be an NBA player. What LSAT authors love to do is break the rules, those rascals. They try to go backwards against the arrow and say like, oh, Teresa's rich? Well, then therefore Teresa is an NBA player. That's confusing the necessary and the sufficient. A contrapositive is saying if you're not the right side, you're not the left side. If you're not rich, you're not an NBA player. If you reverse the contrapositive, then it sounds like what we did there. If you're not an NBA player, then you must not be rich. Still confusing necessary and sufficient.
So here they come now, Gary. Our first famous flaw of the evening. Necessary versus sufficient.
Basically, if you're doing a flaw question and you see some conditional logic in the argument, it's usually going to be this flaw. How do you see conditional logic? You gotta memorize all the words that give you conditions, universals, guarantees, and requirements.
Should someone wake up the tiny judge?
Oh, good morning, Your Honor. Just give me a sec. My Mac has been acting up. Force quit. Okay, so the Milwaukee Bucks are the best team in the league. Eric Bledsoe is their point guard, so Eric Bledsoe must be the best point guard in the league. Just makes sense. Since he's a point guard on the best team, he must be the best point guard. Nothing further, Your Honor. Do you want to tell her why that's dumb, or should I handle it?
Well, I feel like they're paying me to marshal the defense, so maybe I should, just for practice, Your Honor. The characteristics of the whole do not necessarily match the characteristics of the part. If a soup is very salty, that doesn't mean that each ingredient was very salty. If a book is lightweight, that doesn't mean the entire stack of books is lightweight. So you see, Your Honor, you could be on the best team in the league, but not necessarily be the best at your position. Nothing further.
What was the name of that famous flaw again?
Your Eminence, part versus whole.
Just because it's true of the whole thing doesn't mean it's true of each part. And just because it's true of each part doesn't mean it's true of the whole thing. Different arguments will go from whole to part or from part to whole. You better make sure your answer choice describes it in the correct order. Alright, check out this argument.
It says here that people who play professional basketball tend to be taller than those who don't. I guess if you want to be taller, play professional basketball.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Lydia who dreamed of being an NBA star. She practiced and practiced. Her crossover was so killer, she was wanted in 7 counties, and she got too tall for her basement and died.
This is actually another causal flaw like we saw before. And what we gotta train our ear to recognize is correlation language. Correlations support the idea that maybe one thing causes another, but you can't be sure that one thing causes another.
I'm sure of what's going on here. What you're looking at here is causality. X causes Y. That's why you're seeing that correlation.
Maybe Y causes X, or they're both caused by something else.
Lydia? Why are you in my basement? Oh my god, and how did being so good make you tall?
All of these causal arguments take a form of presenting a curious fact, where the author is implicitly thinking, why are pro ballers taller than average? And then comes away, in this case, with the story that playing basketball made them taller. We're always going to ask, what's a different way we could explain why they're taller? And then how plausible is this idea that playing basketball got them there?
Hi jerks, me again. Miss me? Hey, I have a curious fact. Why has my store's revenue been hurting since the construction site moved in? Obviously, it's the construction company's fault. Bring me money.
We go into our routine. We say, what's a different way to explain why his revenue has gone down? How plausible is the idea that the construction site is messing up his store? Throughout logical reasoning, we'll deal with curious facts like statistical changes or correlations, and an author trying to explain what this all means. And we'll always be thinking, how else could we explain it? And how do we assess the author's story? But for flaw questions, they just want you to complain that couldn't there be other ways to explain this?
Hey guys, you think her cat told her that blazer looks cute?
Ooh, Karen, you need to consider alternative explanations for that laughter.
Okay, do you remember the 3 flaws we've learned so far?
Let me see. We've had necessary versus sufficient, part versus whole, and of course the causal flaws.
Good retention. What do you think, America? Is he ready for another one? Are you talking to me? Fantastic!
I asked everyone in my fantasy basketball league what their favorite sport is, and all my dudes said basketball, so clearly basketball is the most popular sport in the nation.
That's like asking your cat club, hey guys, what's your favorite type of pet?
Weird, I was just gonna say
I was
cats.
thinking cat.
Has anybody said cats yet?
Cats.
When an argument is relying on a sample, then we basically need to ask ourselves, is this too small a sample to make a big extrapolation from? Or is there anything about the sample that we looked at that's kind of biased or self-selecting or unrepresentative?
Josie's a poet and she's been to Europe. Thus, all poets have been to Europe.
And since each member of Josie's poetry club has taken a trip to Europe before, we know that her poetry club has taken a trip to Europe before.
Sampling and part versus whole sometimes feel like they're kind of overlapping, because if you go from a small sample to a big extrapolation, and it feels like you went from a part to a whole. But sampling is saying if it's true of this poet, it's true of other poets. Part versus whole is if it's true of this poet, it's true of the poetry club.
A biased source cannot be trusted. Tony says the Lakers will be good this year because of their new coach, but ignore him. He just wants them to be good so he can sell his tickets for more money.
Well, a biased source can't be dismissed. I don't want to rely exclusively on it, or I can be somewhat skeptical, but I can't just assume it's wrong. The governor should not have used taxpayer money on her swimming pool. That's a misappropriation of funds, which is illegal.
Ah, shut up, Eddie. No one wants to hear what a criminal has to say about crime.
Yeah, Eddie said I was too drunk to drive, but he's driven drunk before. The idea can still have merit. When we're arguing with people, we have to take aim at their premises, their rationale. We can't take aim at who they are, what they've previously believed or done, or what their ulterior motive is. And we call this line of attack ad hominem. You're basically dismissing someone's point of view because of their motives or their past, instead of taking their ideas head on.
Consulting. It really is the perfect job. How do I know? Just consider every other job. Doctor, firefighter, astronaut, grave robber, all the hits. None of them compare to sweet, sweet consulting.
Basketball is America's favorite sport. Yeah, some surveys say football's number one, but they must be messed up. Basketball's number one.
Hey, Mom, not a complaint here, just an observation. I see Danny's got these rad tacos, and you guys are munching on some delicious steaks. And I have this uncooked pile of dough with sauce on it.
Oh, honey, you don't like your dough? Well, me and Dad get the steaks because, they have to get eaten by someone in the family. And it should be me and your dad that get them.
I know we're looking at flawed arguments, but come on, these seem terrible. Consulting is the best because nothing compares to consulting. Basketball's number one, and anything that says otherwise is lying. Your dad and I deserve the steaks because we deserve them more than you two. It's almost like there is no argument, it's just somebody convinced of their own conclusion.
I'm here to consult. When the answer says that the author presumed the conclusion or just restated a premise, that's almost always wrong.
Nice consult, Greg. Hey everybody, Greg just made us all rich again.
Oh yeah, that's steak money.
Awesome. Do I get a piece this time?
Oh, honey, we'll have to see if there's any left after we make Danny's steak tacos.
That girl goes on to be president, just so we all feel better. All right, pause the recording and match up the answer with the famous flaw. All right, let's check out a new flaw. Read this argument to think about how we could object. All right, mount up, defenders of music helping us concentrate. We want to say it does help us concentrate, and he's saying, yeah, well, no one's ever proven it. All right, maybe it's hard to prove. Maybe it's hard to like quantify concentration, or there's not a lot of grants for scientists to do it. But come on, people feel that. Wait a sec. How are you sure it doesn't improve concentration? Where's your evidence?
Grieving? Are you guys praying and grieving? Some people believe God exists, but that's incorrect. No one's ever successfully proven that God exists. Pizza.
Yeah, well, all the non-believers have never been able to prove there isn't a God, so God does exist. Also, is my cheesy bread in here?
No cheesy bread? What kind of god would allow this?
Without proof, both of us should stay undecided.
Hey, that's Fat Clancy. I thought he got arrested for bank robbery because I saw him at the courthouse last month. Hey, Fat Clancy. Call me within the range of normal body types, Clancy.
He was actually at the courthouse that day arguing a parking ticket that I gave him.
Oh, well then I guess he ain't never robbed a bank after all.
Well, we can't quite say that. Just because your assumption was wrong doesn't mean your conclusion was wrong.
An inability to prove a claim doesn't mean the claim is false. It's almost like if a committee was investigating me, their inability to prove I'm guilty doesn't prove I'm innocent.
I know the prenuptial contract I signed with Angela says if we get divorced, I give her half my money. But half my money won't help Angela. After all, the bank doesn't accept half-sized bills. And since this provision helped nobody, player, it should be annulled from the contract.
Oh, Dingleberry. Half my money means divide your wealth in half, not saw your physical money in half, and you know that.
I just can't believe Biden didn't pick either one of us for vice president.
I know, and just because we're social democrats?
It's like, excuse me, if a girl wants to be a little bit social.
I hear that. Let's get social tonight. Hey.
I appreciate this weird attention, but I could have used a little more of it on Super Tuesday.
The first usage of social meant like socialist. The second use of social meant like, I enjoy partying.
Yo, you see LeBron's fourth quarter last night? Yo, you see LeBron's 25-point fourth quarter last night? He was sick.
He looks pretty healthy to me.
I hate this flaw. And now thanks to this stupid flaw in you, I hate art too.
He meant sick, like awesome, not sick, like unhealthy.
Thanks, I know what he meant. Look, I have to live with this LeBron fanboy.
Knock knock, who's there? Consult? Consult who? Consult you. I'm back to tell you that just like circular reasoning, this whole we used a word two different ways is almost always wrong.
Another sterling consult, Greg. Top 9. Top 9 I've ever seen. You know what top 9 gets, don't you, Greg? T-bone.
Well, it's been quite a day, but there's only 2 more left and we'll be real quick with them. Yep, reckon we'll cover them real quickly. Well, can anybody tell me the molecular composition of water? Jeremy?
Is it H3O?
Oh, no, sorry, but close, Jeremy.
Oh, there, Jer Bear.
Professor, Jeremy seems really upset that water isn't H3O.
Are you saying we should just ignore the actual molecular composition of water because it would hurt Jer Bear's feelings?
Excuse me, I just need to get a little H3O.
Hey, Jeremy, it's okay. I believe you. In fact, I think it is H3O. 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 H3O.
Wait! I have something to say. This seems like incredibly flawed logic.
That it is, Jerbear. When we're in pursuit of facts, we don't want to rely on emotion, opinion, or someone who might not be an expert.
Yeah, so unfortunately, there's not going to be a vaccine for at least a year.
No, my friend Lupe said we're gonna have one by Halloween.
Oh my gosh, really? And your friend Lupe is a vaccinologist?
No, she's just a hairstylist with good instincts.
Honey, you know they're gonna have a vaccine by Halloween.
I wonder if Lupe's instincts saw that coming.
We don't want to try to make someone believe us based on fear or pity. We don't want to treat opinion as though it's fact. And we don't want to cite someone's opinion if they're not an expert on the matter at hand.
Hey, before we get to our last flaw, let's take a sec to remember the 9 we've covered. And while you do, Mama's gotta get her steps in.
One last flaw. And then 5 more. There's 5 more I should tell you about. Relative, absolute, false choice, irrelevant, response, overlap, errors, intent versus outcome. What I just did was our last flaw, an internal contradiction. You say something earlier, like this is the last one, that then goes against what you say later. There's 5 more. It's inconsistent. It's incompatible. This is almost never the correct answer, so just make sure you recognize that when we say things are inconsistent, we're saying an internal contradiction. Sir, why are you still scratching? We resolved the mystery.
Oh, I ain't scratching 'cause I'm confused. I just love scratching. I just scratch until I'm tired and then I sleep.
For what it's worth, here are those bonus 5. Pause the video and think about why each one is wrong.
Well, you did it, students, didn't you? You ate your vegetables. You learned 10 famous flaws. I hope next time you see them in an answer choice, you know what to do with them. And I hope the next time you see me, it's on the slopes of Park City, Utah, my favorite...
Hooray for basketball!